WNDS Sports and Tri-State Megabucks present Candlepin Stars and Strikes.
Oh, look at this. Look at that. He got it. The spread eagle for a spare.
Candlepin Stars and Strikes is sponsored in part by Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan.
Looks good. Looks good. It's gonna go. It's gonna go.
Candlepin Stars and Strikes is produced in conjunction with the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association. And now your hosts, Doug Brown and Dan Murphy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to Candlepin Stars and Strikes here from Park Place Lanes in Wyndham, New Hampshire. Doug Brown along with Dan Murphy, and once again we have reached semi-final time, which means we're down to our final three bowlers in this series. And got a hot bowler right now, Paul Berger, coming off 2 wins in a row, a 383 and then a 393. Now he moves up to the semifinal spot to try and challenge Dan Brodeur.
Right, he's in more familiar territory now in the semifinals. He's not used to that sixth spot, but he's bowled very well, well enough to win, really. Not real big scores, but another great opponent this week in Dan Brodeur.
All right, let's get a look now at both of these bowlers today. First of all, our number 5 seed, no stranger to this program, and certainly no stranger to the Tournament of Champions. He needs 2 more wins to get there this year. He's got 2 already from Hopedale, Massachusetts, Paul Berger.
Okay, Paul comes in averaging 128, has a high triple of 500, and the all-important roll-off score, the last qualifier, at 651.
And again, 2 weeks ago, he won his first match, beating Joe Tavernese here by some 38 pins. Last week, it was just an 8-pin victory with a 393 as he knocked off Dan LaPlume in a very, very tight match that went right down to the last couple of boxes. So today, in the semifinal match, Paul Berger looks for 3 in a row, and he faces our number 2 seed from Bow, New Hampshire, Dan Brodeur.
Okay, Dan comes in averaging 120, high triple of 468, and his roll-off score at 662.
All right, of course, $250 to the runner-up today. The winner gets a spot in the championship match next week. We have more money at stake at the end of today's show, $120 in the bonus ball contest. We're going to get to all of this and start off the match. 3 games between Paul Berger and Dan Brodeur after we have these messages. Don't go away. Paul Berger coming from the number 5 spot, trying to duplicate his feat of a year ago when he came in as the number 5 seed and won 4 matches in a row, got all the way to the Tournament of Champions. Came up from that number 5 spot to beat Joe Tavernese 2 weeks ago and then Dan LaPlume last week. This week he faces Dan Brodeur, and the winner of this match will come back next week to roll against Paul Willits, who qualified in that number 1 spot. And the winner of that one, of course, moves into the Tournament of Champions. So Paul Berger set to go and starts with a thundering 9-drop. Last December, when Paul Berger ran the table from the number 4 spot, he beat, in order, Bob Whitcomb, Stu Bergman, Mark Gregory, and then Glenn Shattuck, of course, in that classic match from last year, when Paul threw a 454 and Glenn Shattuck had a 439. And Paul's got himself another 9-drop, although this one somewhat delayed.
He was looking at a triangle to begin with, but now he's looking at just a 4-pin with a couple pieces of wood out in front. He's going to have to be careful with. Two in a row.
No trouble there. And now Dan Brodeur. You know, it's funny sometimes, Dan, we were talking last week about how the passage of time here on Stars and Strikes and how we've been watching families grow up and so forth since we've been doing this show. And it sometimes gets away from you a little bit as to how much time goes by between appearances for some of these guys. And I never would have guessed that it's been over a year and a half since Dan Brodeur was here in singles competition, as Dan starts with a spare. The last time Dan was here in a singles event was in the Tournament of Champions 2 seasons ago.
Missing the head pin to the right, just 4 on the spare, but the wood comes in to probably give him some help in the remaining 6 pins. Make it a 9. 23. So 6-pin advantage plus the fill for Paul Berger.
And helping out Paul with some dead wood on lane 31. 2 marks in a row for Paul Berger to start the match, working on a spare here, and he'll get another big drop, this time 8.
And trip that 5-pin, make it a little easier for him on the 6-10. Double piece of wood out front, another third piece now rolling into play.
Oh, yes.
Oh, boy. 3 in a row.
Had to wait. So Paul's had a 9 drop, a 9 drop, and an 8 drop. His first 3 boxes. Not this time. Just 4. An 8-box for Paul. 59 through the first 4.
Not a bad start.
And Brodeur kicks out everything but the 6-pin.
There's nothing left in the channel or anything. Just knocked all 9 pins into the pit.
Got it for the spare. These two guys, between them, more than 40 appearances on the show. This is number 24 for Paul Berger and number 18 for Dan Brodeur. Just misses the head pin.
We always talk about this too. A lot of times Paul comes in, bowls 1 match and makes it a tournament of champions. Doesn't get a chance to pile up those wins.
Too much of the head pin. Talked about the Tournament of Champions back in '94, which was the last time Dan Brodeur was here in singles competition. He had a nice run. He was the 4th seed in that tournament. He beat Mark Gregory the first week, and then the next week, guess who he beat? Paul Berger. And then he beat Peter Flynn to get into the finals and lost the final to Joe Ashline.
Boy, he beat some real slouches, didn't he? Paul wants a break on either the 4 or the 3 pins. But a makeable spare with a double. Well, I say that. The wood's starting to roll away from the 3-pin now. I think if he takes the pieces of the wood and 3-pin at the same time, he's got a chance.
Nope.
Didn't get any of that wood to the right.
And a 10. Missing the head pin that time.
4 horsemen right plus the 7-pin.
Nine box and 2 open frames for Paul Berger. Dan Brodeur works as an industrial electrician for Concord Litho Company.
Five, 7, and 8. A couple pieces of wood, one looking right at him, which I think he's probably going to have to take. No, not enough to carry the 7. Good effort there, though.
And 10.
$14 pins, as you can see. Paul Berger early in the match. Next week, Paul Willits, number 1 seed in this roll-off. 689 was his score. 2, 7, and 8. This is a situation that wood behind the 1 and the 2 may hurt the shot. It might send the headpin right to the right sidewall.
No, got it.
Very nicely done.
I think he might have had it without the wood. Yep. And Paul Berger looking to grab an extra one. He does on the 9-pin. The 2-pin is off the spot. He's got the 1, 2, and 10. Yep, playing it on the inside with those 2 pieces, or those 2 pins, the 1 and 2, right next to each other practically.
The ball goes down and gets the 10-pin. Yes, it does. Spare for Paul in the 7th. Both bowlers missing on lane 31 to the right, both of them on as well.
Each bowler now has a 4 fill and a 5 fill on a spare. Oh, how about it?
Wow.
Oh, my. Not the way he intended to make it, but he will take it.
See what happens here. A little full on the head pin. 2-pin goes off the sidewall into the 6 and then eventually the 10. A little bonus there for Paul. He kind of looked at Dan as he was walking up saying, I got a little lucky there. And right in the pocket. 1, 2. He's dropped 7. 3, 6, and 7 pins left.
And it'll be 8. Dan pulled that ball a little bit, but it didn't turn out too badly, did it?
It's going to go, and almost the 3.
That's not a bad lead for missing the head pin. Most people would take their chances with this one. Mark number 4 for Dan Brodeur. Spares all around so far. No strikes in this match. Oh, and again, not a good fill on a spare. This time 4.
Yeah, Paul's had 5 spares. That's those 5 marks. 9, 8, 4, 5, and 4 are the fills.
Oh, but he's made some great shots.
Second ball is where he wants it.
Second ball has bailed him out, really, so far in this match.
Plays this one on the inside. Ball goes down and takes a 6-10. Headpin does the rest of the damage. So that makes it 6 spares. Sets of 3s. First 3 boxes and the 7, 8, and 9th.
This is the headpin again. Just 6.
This can start to wear on you. You think every time you get a mark, say, oh boy, I don't want to miss the headpin again, and that's exactly what happens. If you can try to block that out. Almost 4 in a row. He'll be all happy with his score, but I'm sure he'll be thinking it could have been a lot more. 133.
Now Dan Brodeur is working on a spare as he comes up. And he will take a couple of extra for 8.
Not a bad leave. The 1 and the 7. He's got a couple pieces of wood that should help on the 7-pin. First order of business, though, is make sure you have the head pin.
He's got it for the spare. That's his 5th. He gets another one. He can perhaps even take the lead here in game 1. Just catching the head pin, and
he was determined not to leave this one to the right. And he just barely caught the head pin going left, but it's not a bad play here at Park Place. Keep those pins in play and do a lot of damage.
He's got the 10 pin for another spare. 6 spares for each bowler here in game 1, and if Dan puts any kind of a fill on this.
27 plus a ball, so he needs 6 to tie, 7 to win. Take the lead, I should say, to win.
To win the game.
To win the game, right. Wasn't all wrong, was I?
On the head pin again, and it'll be another 9 drop, and Dan Brodeur will have the lead after 1. Closing game 1 with 3 marks in a row to take a 3-pin lead over Paul Berger. We've got 2 games to go on Stars to Strikes. Don't go away. $120 on the line in our bonus ball contest at the end of the show, in addition to 2 brand new sets of bowling balls from our friend Bob Perella at Paramount Industries in Medway, Massachusetts. But the only way you can win is if you send in your postcard, and make sure they're small postcards. Small postcards with a regular stamp. It's very simple. Just don't send in one of those real big postcards, or we'll have to have Dan rip it up on the air. And be sure and include your name, your full address, and the number of pins from 1 to 10 that you think will drop on the bonus ball at the end of the show. And then you can mail that card into Park Place Lanes, Route 28, Windham, New Hampshire, 03087. Good luck. Haven't had a winner yet this year, actually. Right. So we're still looking for our first winner here in the new season. Dan Brodeur with 4 marks in the last 5 boxes in game 1 to take the lead away from Paul Berger. Paul hasn't been trailing much in these 3 weeks.
Oh, almost made it another one. Left the 10-pin.
$10. Dan from Bow, New Hampshire. Dan's wife Marlene is in attendance today watching the match. She's also been on the show.
9-pin drop, 7-pin for Dan.
Waiting for the wood to settle in the back. You get a look at what Dan sees.
Yeah, it shouldn't come into play, but just don't want any distractions. And let's let the wood settle down too. And he covers that 7-pin.
Saw that Paul Berger from Hopedale, Mass. Those of you familiar with the Worcester area probably know where Hopedale is. I worked down there for a while, Dan. Hopedale, pretty small town, but they always had great basketball teams there.
Hopedale, Bellingham down that area, Franklin.
Just seemed like every year Hopedale would have a solid basketball team.
Paul looking at the 6-10.
Mark that one down.
Look at it no more. Matches a spare by Dan Brodeur. Both bowlers started with 10s and now spares. The match go down to the last 2 frames last week. Wouldn't be a bit surprised if the same thing happened. 7-pin drop. Dan is going to have to play the 4-pin with a double piece of wood and find a way of snapping it over into the 6 and 10. Ooh, he didn't miss that by much. He was just trying to clip the left end of that piece of wood that's laying straight across the lane.
And the 10. Dan Brodeur second in the roll-off for this series at 662. Paul Berger finished 5th, but he was only 11 pins behind Dan, 651. Scores very tightly bunched. And there's a strike, the first one of the match.
It's a matter of time. These guys been pounding that ball in the 1-2 and the 1-3 pocket, dropping 8s and 9s, and this time a 9-pin drop. The 6-pin will eventually go for Dan Brodeur. First strike, as Doug said.
And there's our first half Worcester, too, and it comes on a spare fill for Paul Berger.
That's been his demise. Last week a little bit, they didn't hurt the match. He still won the match, but this week we can go back and look at the fills on those spares, and I'm sure Paul's not happy. It's strange because the second and third balls seem to be right on target each and every time.
Boy, he's had a 2 fill, 2 4 fills, a 5 and a 6 so far. Right back in the pocket again, and look at the mix for a 9 drop, leaving the 8. And the wood getting better all the time. Ball drives through it. Spare in the 4th. We will take a break, and this match is still very, very close. Dan Brodeur working on a strike. And there's the double strike. Wow.
Well, last time it was the 6-pin, the last one to go down. This time, the 4-pin. Looking for 3. A little lighter that time, but still right in the pocket. Now he's going to look at the 3 and the 5. Wood's still moving just to the right of the 5-pin, 3-pin, I should say.
Looks like it wants to roll away, but it keeps hanging around.
Probably is not going to come into play, but again, you don't want it as a distraction as you begin your approach and have something move on you down there.
Gets it for the spare. 85 half for Dan Brodeur with a spare up in the 6th.
Not bad. 85 half with only the benefit of 3 marks. That's how much those double strike help you out.
And Paul Berger has a half Worcester.
Half Worcester right. 2 fill on the spare again.
Same lane.
If Paul had his lane the way Park Place lanes would have 35 lanes instead of 36. Eliminate 32 right about now. Disappointing 2 and then just a 9, so it's only 21 pins in those 2 boxes, and all of a sudden the close match is really ballooned in favor of Dan Brodeur at 35 pins now.
And Paul gets a backdoor strike.
He had the 3, 6, 10, and then a piece of wood fell in between the 6 and a 10. We'll see it. Here comes that piece of wood and kicks the 6-pin forward into the 3.
Oh my, Dan Brodeur with a light hit, and he moved that 8-pin a good 6 inches, maybe more. You can't believe it. That's on a spare, just a 6 fill.
I don't think anybody in the place can believe that one.
Let's see what it does to this shot. No, missed the object.
But it's gone now.
At last. And it's an 8 box. 109 through 7. Missing just off target to the left.
4 horsemen plus the 8. Want to keep that momentum. You just don't want to let your guard down against Paul Berger. He's got a strike working. He can throw a double too. Dan will be open 2 frames.
And Paul is working on a strike. Now the problem is he has to solve lane 32 when he goes up there.
Well, at least this time he's got 2 balls to solve it with.
Right.
118 for Dan Brodeur through 8 frames. Open with a 136.
Paul Berger on a strike.
He made sure he wasn't going to leave it to the right that time. He pulled it way over to the 1-2 pocket, light in the 1-2 pocket, I should say, and leaves himself the diamond.
No.
'82 now. Drops the lead to 30 pins for Dan Brodeur, 27 in this game. Ball stands to the extreme left of the lane when he approaches the pins. Then he ends up toward the center of the approach, but starts way to the left. Unusual.
We would love to put a mark up here in the 8th against the open box and heading to the final 2. No!
Oh, my!
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Just the way he played it. Paul's like, yeah, I meant to do that.
Yeah, I got to be able to read the greens. It's my way and the right way.
The ball coming back to hit the 10 pin and then the chain reaction forward.
Dan Brodeur back on the head pin, 3, 6, and 10. You don't want a shot like that to electrify the other fella, so you want to come back with your own mark here. Just diffuse it a little bit. He's got a piece of wood next to the 6 pin, but he's got to have the 3.
And he's got it after a long wait.
Sometimes that's the easy part. Now the fill comes. Looks like a pretty good ball going in.
It is a 9 drop. He's got the 4. Dan with a chance for a 150 game if he were to convert this.
Now he's actually got a little room to the right. If he was to miss a little bit to the right, the ball should still carry that pin. But I'm sure he wants to be right on the 4 pin.
Worst thing is he has to wait it out again. Oh, but he's right on it.
147 plus the ball.
That is 12 marks already for Dan Brodeur, including a double strike in this game. And gets 7 for a 154. And a 2-game total of 290.
290. Whoa. Smoking.
Now, Paul Berger on a spare. He is yet to solve lane 32 in this game, and there's another diamond.
Yeah, a little light again, this time to the right again on the 1-3 pocket, but he didn't miss it far enough to the right for the half Worcester. But
nope. Paul has been open every time in this game on this lane, and he is marked every time on lane 31 so far. He'll have to mark again in order to try and keep this thing within about 40 pins. Now, he seems to have this lane figured out pretty much. Big 9 drop. This could be an important mark right here later on. He's got it. Now, Big Phil here could cut the lead under 30. Paul checking the scoreboard, he knows. And again, he throws a good ball on lane 31, a 9 drop for a 127 and a 2-game total of 260. So it'll be a 30-pin lead for Dan Brodeur with 1 game to go. These two guys will settle it when we come back. Paul Berger has won 2 matches in a row here. If he wants to make it 3, that's the deficit he has to make up.
Have to start fast, keep it going.
And he's going to have to figure out this lane 32, which gave him so much trouble in the last game.
That's about the best first ball he's had over there in a while.
And he's got the spare. Well, Paul lost that second game, Dan, by 27 pins. And if you add up the pins that were totaled in that double strike situation that Dan Brodeur had, 48 to 21, 27 pins.
How did you figure that out? Just jump right out of you, huh? You were unbelievable, Mr. Brown.
Paul might have caught a bad break there with the front piece of that diamond going down.
That's a great stat. 27. Well, he did a little bit like he wanted to do. He got a bad break there with the diamond and have the front pin drop. 30 pins ahead. What is going through your mind? Try to forget you're 30 ahead. Just remember you're bowling Paul Berger and just keep marking. 4 horsemen right for Dan Brodeur. 1, 3, 6, and 10. Outside, is it going to go? Yes! Almost the delay of game.
Let's see if it goes this time. It did.
Five pin, lots of help to the right. Wants to avoid probably the one to the left. Actually, the one right out in front. Oh, can't be too cute. I'd just go right at the 5 pin because that wood could come off the left sidewall and come back too. And you still might benefit from the piece on the right. So I'd go right at the pin. That's what he's doing.
Yes, with
and
the
then
ball.
And then I was my third try, and then the ball may come back.
Mark number 14 for Dan Brodeur, and he had a little smile about it.
Yes.
The ball actually hopped over that piece of wood to get over there to get the 5 pin. Look out!
Coming back.
Look out. Paul Berger's got a strike. Paul's had a couple of comebackers today too. Now
Exactly what Dan does not want Paul to do is throw strikes, because then you have the situation of throwing another one, and then that deficit could disappear, or his advantage could disappear real fast. And you can tell by body English of Paul, he was looking for the double.
But if not that, he needs to keep marking. Not this time. Instead, he'll take a 10 box, 55 through 4. Well, now the pattern in this game for Paul is exactly the opposite as in the last game. He's marked both times on 32, but not on 31. The bowling balls that both of these guys use are very, very similar in color and pattern.
Well, the way they're coming back, I think we should probably investigate them. Confiscate them, saw them in half. Make sure there's no cork in there.
We've seen about 3 or 4 of those today, haven't we? Balls coming
Really?
back and bouncing off the walls.
Dan missing the head pin, but got a decent break, the 1, 9, and 10.
I thought you could only throw the ball once in each try. These guys have got it figured out where they get 2.
Must be that English they put on it. Make it 3 in a row? Not this time.
And the 10. Well, Dan figures to be no worse than at least holding his 30-pin lead after 4 boxes here, so.
All he did was cut the game down to a 6-frame game. That puts a lot of pressure on Paul Berger. Not much time to get 30 pins back. Triangle, 2, 4, and 5.
Nope.
Right around the 4-pin.
And a 10 box to add another pin to the lead to make it a 31 pin advantage. With 6 boxes to go here on Stars and Strikes. We're coming right back. Don't go away. Six boxes to go, and Paul Berger looking for his 3rd win in a row with 31 pins to make up here. He's in the pocket, and he's got a strike.
Looked like he was at a cluster of 3 or 4 pins. Watch, and then all of a sudden they all go down together. Boom.
Without the ball coming back.
Well, he's figured 32 out. Now he's having trouble with 31, as you said.
He's not been able to throw the big ball after the strike, and that's really what he needs. There's 1 mark up there each trip is not going to be enough.
And Brodeur would take a tie in these 2 frames too. Keep the 31 pin advantage, and then there'll be only 4 frames remaining. Do a little work to do that. 1, 3, 4, 7, 10.
Nope.
Good try.
Dan's been doing an awful lot of waiting in this match.
Yeah.
Takes a 9.
So lead, all of a sudden, 22. Long ways from over.
Off the head pin.
That's always a break. I'd rather shoot at these 3 than the 4 horsemen. It seems like somehow one of those 4 stays up. No, missed the head pin. You can pick up a couple and count. Push it back up to 23 or 24.
.24 it is, with 4 boxes remaining. Paul knows he's probably got to mark out to have any chance, and this is not the way to start. The 6, 7, 8, and 10. Nope.
Looked to me like he rushed that one. It's almost like, oh well, let's get this over with. But boy, I'll tell you, he's still 3 marks away. Anything can happen. Triangle. 3, 4, and 5. No wood to help him. Oh,
nope.
That's a tough break there. That's going to make it difficult.
.99 through 8, but 2 open frames.
Yeah, I would say 1 mark anyways here. 2 marks would be just devastating as far as Paul Berger is concerned. No, it's not going to be an easy one. One for the highlight film, maybe, though.
Well, possibilities with the wood, certainly.
Oh. Well, you can gain 2 more and count, push it to 26 with a 10 box.
Got it.
Those are important pins.
Big first ball that time.
5-9.
Not quite. But 2 more boxes click off the counter. And down to the final 2 now, and Dan Brodeur's lead at 25.
Yeah, Paul's got to be thinking strikes.
Not that time.
Definitely, he's got to have a mark. Oh, how did that stay up?
You know, that 4-pin was off the spot, too.
Really?
Yep.
Boy, I don't know how it stood up. And that, barring a minor miracle, that should just about do it. Dan will have to keep the ball in the lane.
Paul just could never. He had 3 marks in a row to start the match. Then he had 3 in a row toward the end of the first game, and then he hasn't been able to put even 2 back-to-back since then.
You know, I'm sitting here and I'm looking. I keep looking at Dan Brodeur's 290, and look, and then I look over and wait a minute, Paul's got 260, but there's been a quiet 260. He's at 378 now. He'll be in the 380s. It's not going to be enough today.
A 6-fill, a 124 for a 384 for Paul Berger. But that will not be enough. Dan Brodeur already at, actually, he's already at 384 right now. So the next ball wins it. Provided it hits something. Oh, he did. And it might be all of them. It is. Nice way to celebrate with a strike in the 9th.
Well, he's going to have a tremendous total. I'm sure he'd say, boy, I wish I could save this for next week. But without it, he might not be going to next week. So take him while you can get him. He's having a terrific 3-game total. Already at 404.
Oh, another mark. Spare on strike. Now 414 plus a ball. And that is the 16th mark for Dan in this match. Paul Berger had 15, but he just couldn't cluster them together. And, of course, Dan Brodeur had that big double strike, which really was the difference in the match. Oh, there's strike again. Wow. 40 pins in the last 2 boxes. And there's your finish. 424 for Dan Brodeur. He advances to the final next week against Paul Willis. We'll be back. And welcome back to Park Place Lanes. First of all, keep the applause going for our runner-up, Paul Berger. Paul, come on up. Paul will be receiving the check for 3rd place in this series, $250. A lot of hard work in between, 2 wins and then this one where Dan Brodeur really threw the big score at you, but you could never seem to get any marks together after that first game.
Yeah, that was the key, along with the fact that Danny just didn't miss. I mean, throw 424, you're entitled to win the match. So.
Well, coming up from number 5, we said it's not as easy this way. You got it done last year, but you're going to have to come back and try again to get into the tournament this year.
Well, I'm going to try to give it another shot.
All right, Paul. Thanks very much. Good to see you as always. Congratulations. And now Dan Brodeur. For the bonus ball, we've got $120 here, plus brand new sets of bowling balls for both our home viewer and for Dan Brodeur, if they can come up with a match here. Uh-oh. Looking for a little more action here. There's 5. It will be 5 for Dan. I'll tell you, the pressure is really on when these numbers start to pile up in the bonus ball contest. The card from Mr. Robert Collins from Manchester, New Hampshire, and his guess was 7. So, Mr. Collins, not a match. We'll be sending you a gift as a consolation prize. And your consolation prize is you get to come into the finals next week.
I like that. I like that. Paul's one of the best, and I'm just privileged to manage to get by him.
You know, I think maybe the key to this match was the last 3 boxes of that first game when you were trailing, not by much, but you were behind. You put the 3 marks together, got a little lead going into the second game, then you got the double strike, then things started to roll for you.
Well, that helps to finish the first swing, at least even or up a couple. It's a 2-game match then.
Next match, I should say, is against Paul Willits, the number 1 seed. I know you saw him in the roll-off. You were bowling right next to him, right?
Yeah, he didn't miss a thing either. He bowled terrific. Very
well, we're gonna settle this then next week, so you come back and we'll do it then.
We will. A lot of fun.
All right, Dan Brodeur, congratulations on the big win today. And it's interesting too, Dan. I was talking earlier with Paul Willits, and he said these two guys bowled with each other during the final roll-off. So they had a chance to watch each other for 5 games, and they were very, very close coming into the 5th and final game. Then Paul Willits had a big score in that 5th game to result in these roll-off scores that you'll see here, resulting in this seeding. And so now they're going to settle it. Of course, it all starts even next week, and they settle it in 3 games.
That's right. You can't carry any of those pins in with you. This is not handicapped or anything like that. So it's a good matchup, and it's going to be a good entry into the Tournament of Champions, whichever bowler wins.
So we're going to have a lot of money up for grabs next week. $500 to the runner-up, $1,000 to the winner, and, of course, a spot in the Tournament of Champions. We'll also be up to $130 in our bonus ball contest next week. That will cap off a great weekend here on the Winds of New England. We will have Candlepin Skins on Saturday at noon from Londonderry, and then back here Sunday at noon for the finals between Dan Brodeur and Paul Willits. Until then, for Dan Murphy and the whole crew, I'm Doug Brown. Have a great week, everybody.